back to Brian's Beat.
This is the world of Commander McCrag.
Your hair will curl in the world of McCrag.
He fights monsters galore and then asks for still more.
For so says the brag of McCrag.
I'm wondering, they say the temperature is supposed to get up into the 70s today. 57 across the board, Dartmouth, Fairhaven, and New Bedford. I know it's early, but I got to tell you, 57 degrees going to the Chowder Fest. Boy, that chowder better be nice and warm today. Chowder Fest, I think it starts around noontime. Just to throw, I think it is. Yeah, I think it is. Monthly FRX brings us the Brian's Beat quote of the day. You have allergies, diabetes, high blood pressure, plus take prescription drugs for your heart. With this service, you could get all of your meds and have them delivered for one small monthly price. monthlyfeerx.com. And the Brian's Beat quote of the day from Emerson. Good manners are made up of petty sacrifices. Good manners are made up of petty sacrifices. 508-996-0500. Yeah, I'm still trying to piece together this whole thing dealing with climate change. If you didn't hear hour number one, and I actually saw the report on television, it's interesting. We see a lot of flood victims right now. It's par for the course after Hurricane Milton. But a group of European who-know-whos put out a new report, and they point the finger at climate change. That's who they're blaming for the power behind Hurricane Milton. And I'm not trying to sit here and say there's no such thing as climate change. I just want to know how they know all of this. They're saying that Hurricane Milton was 2 times stronger than what a normal hurricane would be because of climate change. They're also saying that Hurricane Milton dumped 10% more rain because of climate change. Now, they may be right, but wouldn't you like to see some proof? I would. Now, here's something that you might be able to dispute some of the X's and O's, but here's something that definitely happened. It happened earlier during the week. In case you didn't know, Senator Warren, Mayor Mitchell, and other dignitaries were on hand down by the pier down in that area because they were celebrating, more money coming for offshore wind in that industry. So there's a boat that was going through some problems. And so the captain decided, well, look, this engine is smoking. I'm going to bring it in. New Bedford police come over to the guy, and they were basically trying to tell him that he couldn't park there. And he said, look, you can see the smoke coming out of my engine, and they were going back and forth about that. Eventually, according to the Standard Times anyway, the police declared the boat in such disrepair that it needed to be docked and repaired. But there was a caveat. The captain was told, you can do it, but you had to immediately take down a flag. And now this flag was an anti-offshore wind type flag. Now, I'm reading the story, and I did see the headline, which lured me to read the story. And the first thing that came to my head was, does the New Bedford police have the right and I'm going to say it like this, the constitutional right to tell a fisherman, fishing captain, or anybody that they can't have a flag on their boat. Now, in this particular case, it was a flag that had a windmill inside and it was X'd out. So nothing, I guess we can have a definition of derogatory, but nothing offensive. Nothing offensive. The New Bedford police officers were trying to tell the captain, can't you see what's going on? Because at the same time, they were having the ceremony about, offshore wind energy being built up. And then, of course, you've got this flag that is anti-offshore wind. I get it. But I don't get where New Bedford police have the right to tell you to take that flag down. Am I wrong about this? So that led to a bit of a discussion, let's say. The captain had no idea what was going on the pier as far as a ceremony. In fact, he said to the police who said, well, can't you see what's going on over there? He said, what does that got to do with me? What does it? I agree with him. What does it have to do with him? So they have this ceremony going on. They are government officials. Police are government employees. Do they have the right to tell you to take that flag down? Again, we're not talking nudie pictures. We're not talking swear words. What's your thought? 508-996-0500 to get on to Brian's Beat today. Hello.
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 Am I too early?
Are you too early?
Yeah. Well, I didn't want to interrupt your monologue.
Oh, I can monologue and come back to it.
Okay. Well, being a retired New Bedford police officer, I said no. I would say no, they didn't have the right. And I also, if I had the detail there, I might have worn an anti-windmill pin. But they did, it was open to the public, but when all the offshore fishermen against, offshore wind, when they showed up, they wanted to go in, and, they could have listened. They told them it wasn't public anymore. But when you are on a detail, you're supposed to do as they ask. But I wouldn't have done it if I was on that detail.
So I understand. So you're on a police detail. That detail supersedes your right to freedom of expression?
Not mine, no. If I were the police and the boat's broken down, well, then come on in. The police are usually there for the public to control and the traffic, if that's necessary. Not broken down boats. In my opinion, and I'm retired, but I was going to go, but I didn't.
Well, that being the case, I hear and agree with you. I don't see where the police have any right to tell you to take that flag down.
And they don't.
But they did. Excuse me. They
the
tried to persuade him.
in charge of the police. He was there. It didn't look good for New Bedford, which that whole thing shouldn't be there. They should just take down all those wind turbines that are killing the fishing industry. They don't understand that, I guess.
Well, whether they do or they don't, there's a vested interest for the mayor and company to keep going with the offshore wind.
Yeah, they're usually owned by all foreign companies, too. And they've been breaking apart. It's just not good in the water.
No, it's not. But to me, the bigger story in this particular case is the fact that New Bedford police officers had the gall actually to go up and try to tell them to take that flag down. Then when he didn't want to take it down, he said, "Well, you don't have to take it down, but you have to roll it up."
I would have even docked there if I was I would have still docked there and just ignored them. What are they going to do, lock them up for nothing?
Well, that would have been interesting. But,
world.
now it's interesting that you say that, because the captain of the boat, he figured, why go through all of the BS and risk getting arrested?
What are they going to charge him with?
I don't know.
Okay, me neither. And I'm not a believer in climate change. The climate always changes, so that's a lot of.
Well, then you are a believer in climate change.
No, I'm not.
Yeah, if you just said it's always changing, then you're a believer in climate change.
Well, it's nature, natural. It's natural climate change, not this BS.
Oh, okay. Let's change it then. It's natural change.
All right, I like it.
Thanks for the call.
Okay, thanks.
I do appreciate it. We continue on Brian's Beat. Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
I was there. I had my sign. I got there. One policeman was very nice. He said to me, "You have to move. You can't be there." I said, "Well, I want to go down there." He said, "Oh, no, that's private." I said, "Private? I thought it was for everybody." And this is the interesting part. They had invited a bunch of dock workers. They were all dressed in gray. When they first went by us, they said, "We like the windmills." Must have been maybe 10 guys, okay?
The dock workers said that?
The dock workers, yeah. So then they went to go down because I guess they were invited. And the policeman said, "Oh, you can't go down there." So when they came back, me being nasty, I said, "You still like the windmills?" I didn't get any answer. They were not allowed to go down, okay? And that was a public thing. And I like to know why the rest of us couldn't go down there with our signs. And we were orderly. We made no terrible remarks, but it was private. And that really
interesting. I'm going to make this. I'm just finding out from you, and I knew about the boat, but I didn't get back until today. I'm going to make this suggestion because chances are there will be more public sessions, public-private sessions on that pier out in that area dealing with offshore wind. The next time you go, make sure you take some TV cameras down there with you.
Well, there wasn't. I think Channel 5 was there.
Really?
I'm not sure. Yeah, I think so. I didn't look it up because I've had a busy week this week. But I think Channel 5, and there were people taking videos. So if any of those people who have the videos are listening to me, they should call you and share that video with you.
Please,
definitely. There were people taking videos, and we couldn't go down there. And the police, they were nice. They said we had to step back. We couldn't go beyond this point. Hey, this is America still. Unless Harris wins, then it's going to change. But still, it's America.
So how far away did you have to be as a protester?
We had to be past. We couldn't go where the railroad tracks were. We had to be, I don't know, maybe 10 feet on each side away from the entrance. Okay. So, but we could stand across the street. Still had to be away, but
And were their backs to you, or were they looking at you? The people that were the dignitaries.
Oh no, they went down the long driveway. We couldn't see anything.
Oof. Well,
they came by in their car.
You know what? They know you were there.
Yes, they did.
All right. Hey, thanks for the call.
All right. Bye-bye.
I do appreciate it. 508-996-0500 is how you get onto the program today. We continue. Hello.
Hey, Brian, good morning.
Good morning to you.
You know, according to what you're saying, that police officer, he would tell you he's just following orders.
Maybe.
That's what he gets paid to do. That's what he probably tell you.
You know what?
He trample on the Constitution.
You might be right.
Instead.
You might be right. He might be following orders. But
yeah,
I've never gone through a police academy type training, but don't they teach anything about the Constitution?
I would ask how many police officers have a small pocket-sized Constitution in their front pocket. I'd probably tell you it's probably 1 in 100, if not 1 in 1,000. Many of our police officers don't even know their constitutional rights. So they go up to a guy. Now, let's say he had 2 flags. Harris, Walsh, and the other one on the other flag on the other side of his boat, on the stern side, would be pro-wind. You think the cop would come up to him and say, hey, you know what? You got to take that down and roll it up. You think they would do that?
I do not. Since it was a pro-wind type rally.
Right. Protest is not good for business. It's not good for Liz Warren. It's not good for the mayor. Now, the Democrats talk about democracy, and they usually talk about democracy overseas, protecting democracy. And a lot of the lies that we're hearing is coming out of the White House and the White House spokesperson and many of the Democrats, but they want to censor freedom of speech. They want to censor and stifle truth. They want people's head to turn where you don't know your left from your right, your head from your foot. It's an attack on truth. So Mayor Mitchell, and I said this to Chris McCarthy, and he didn't like it, but the mayor is a puppet of the far left. He takes his marching orders from the radical left. I mean, and this guy was a former federal prosecutor, and he's willing to just pick up the phone and call the police chief and say, hey, who do you got out there? Tell that guy to take his flag off his boat. That's what I'm thinking. You know?
I don't know. You very well might be right. I don't know if the mayor said anything, if the police were acting on their own, if the police got marching orders from their dispatch. I don't know.
Well, at the end of the day, many of these police officers, and there's many good guys, but it's a paycheck. They have a house they have mortgage to pay and the car payments. Some of them have their kids going through college. They're willing to just take an order instead of causing a stink and losing their job.
I think you're right. I think you're absolutely correct. Hey, thanks for the call. I do appreciate it. We're going to continue this, I think. Can I do one more before we... Yes, I can.
I'm glad you did.
I'm glad I did, too. Hello.
Gilly Safiolis.
Gilly Safiolis.
Okay?
No, it's not okay, but that's okay with you.
No. You don't think it's okay?
No, I don't think it's okay. I think it's Gilly Safiolis. It's not okay.
Okay. The only reason I called in is what happened down the pier. And they can see how everything works in this city. Now, you have an officer telling him to take down a flag. Somebody must have had told him to do that. Because then I'm going to... You had an incident with me in City Hall. And I want to bring up that... And it was a chief of police that witnessed the situation. And he said to me straight out, he's not going to arrest her or call her into court. That's the exact words were. He wouldn't do that to anybody. That's the law. You have to do it. So if the chief of police doesn't do his job, why should you think if an officer trying to earn a buck, he gets a call or something, I'm sure he didn't do it on his own. Somebody had to tell him.
Look, I don't know. I wasn't there, but my mind's eye tells me you're doing a detail. You're keeping an eye on the perimeter more so than you're keeping an eye on a boat that's in a distress mode coming in to park to try to take care of what's going on. Not only that, unless this flag was super large, how would you even know what that flag was?
No, I understand. That's what I'm trying to say. That if the chief of police can't follow the law, the rules, you know what I mean? How do you expect like an officer that's trying to earn a living, if he didn't do that on his own? I'll bet my life on it, okay? He didn't do it on his own. Somebody told him, some superior told him, okay? Like the person that wrote the police report in my incident. He told my lawyer, he told the union member, Officer Reedy, he told him that his superiors told him not to get involved with me. And he's the one that took the report. Somebody had to tell an officer what to do. When you got the chief of police witnessing, and it's on video, everybody says that there's videos down there. It's on video, and he didn't do a thing. Two things he can do. Okay, don't arrest her. But they would have arrested me if I tried to push her out of the way.
Maybe.
Well,
Maybe, Gilly.
Laughing.
All right. Hey, thanks, Gilly. You make some good points. I do appreciate it. Going back to the Standard Times article here. New Bedford Police, this is a paragraph. New Bedford Police officer politely asked for cooperation in an email response to the Standard Times inquiry into the incident as described by Isabel. Isabel is the captain of the boat. New Bedford Police Department Assistant Deputy Chief Scott Corolla wrote, the vessel in question entered into a restricted area, alleging that it was having engine trouble. An officer made his way over to assist, and during the conversation with crew members, politely asked the crew member to voluntarily roll up the protest flag to avoid a conflict. The officer did not speak to the crew and the direction of any city or port. I got to read this correctly. The officer did not speak to the crew at the direction of any city or port officials. That's a direct quote. So now, contrary to what others have said, according to New Bedford Police, the officer did not speak to the crew at the direction of city or port officials. I guess we have to ask the question, well, do you believe that one? Welcome back. This just came in from WCVB.com. That's Channel 5, the TV station up in Boston. Mass General Brigham is postponing certain elective surgeries starting tomorrow due to a critical shortage of intravenous fluids, a result of supply chain disruptions caused by Hurricane Helene. How many people have elective surgery on a Sunday, on a holiday weekend Sunday? Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
Oh, good. Anyway, I was at the Whaler Museum yesterday. Is that gorgeous? Did you go in there lately?
You talking to me about going into the Whaling Museum?
Oh, the whales, the way they got them hung up in there. I should have been in there a long time ago.
Those poor whales, just hanging around.
No, but I was in there when I was young, and then I never went back in. And I went to a music there yesterday, symphony.
Because they can't play at the Z.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's so pretty. The scenery from up there, too. When you go outside, there's like a little veranda, and you can overlook the harbor. It's the best view I've ever seen. It makes New Bedford look beautiful. When you look at it from that angle, yes. Oh yeah.
I'm sorry. That sounds a little disparaging, but yes, from that angle, it looks great.
That to the whales. I said it's too bad they're doing that to the whales.
What, hanging them up at the Whaling Museum?
No, those are the carcasses. You know that already. One of them washed up a while back.
Yeah, again, I'm not a biologist, marine biologist, or anything like that. I want to believe that the windmills are causing this problem just to get them to stop with the offshore wind at this particular time. But you know what? I'm not sure that it is.
No, I read something too and just heard something about the fishing boats, and I always knew that. But you can't say anything about the fishing boats in New Bedford, but they're doing the whales. Well, you know how Mayor Mitchell is about that, but they're the ones who get entangled in their nets and everything, and they end up dead. It just hurts me to see that, though, because it's all greed. I hate to say it, but they live very good, the fishermen, and I'd swap with them any day.
Really?
Of course, they have the life of they own boats and all that. Of course, they live high.
Well, the owners do.
Of course they do. They have beautiful homes, beautiful everything.
But what about the people that work for the owners of the boats?
Well, they don't do so bad if they invest their money, but it's a hard job. But the thing is, it's just so much greed in this world. So let me change the subject for a minute because I want to ask you some questions on the voting, the questions.
Voting. I thought you said voting. Okay, voting, yes. I'll do my best.
Yeah, because you'll hang up right away, so I got to hurry up.
All right, I'm going to hang up now. Bye.
Listen. Listen. Hello?
I'm listening.
All right, so you said you were going to go over the questions.
No, you said you were.
I heard you yesterday when you were on Daddy.
I was going to go over one particular question. And unfortunately, the person that I was asking to do some background work for me decided not to. I mean, I can still tell you how I'm going to vote on that question. Or are you looking for any particular question?
Yeah, this one here about the transportation is big and long. That's to let Uber drivers have a union.
If it allows them to unionize,
so that there's because somebody out in California owns that company. I heard.
I know there's the folks in California own Uber. I don't think they own Lyft.
So what will that give them in the end? If
give whom?
Yes, the drivers.
It will allow them to unionize what I believe. This is Brian talking now. What I believe the union will try to do is work for better pay for their drivers and benefits. What does that do to you, the passenger? It makes your fare go up.
Oh, really?
Yeah. You know what? Owners are pretty smart about that. They will pass the cost on to whomever until it gets to the point where they can't anymore, and then they have to pay their workers, and then they start to lose money.
All right, what about the tip one? I'm not the tip one, the one that they work for tips. You know anything about that question?
I know how I'm going to vote on it.
Yeah, but what's it going to entail?
So what it entails is that you've got a group of people out there, and I believe a lot of them are involved in politics, that are trying to get these workers to be paid some type of salary. So the employer has, there's a paper trail that shows that employee X made X amount of dollars, and that money needs to be taxed. And where does the tax money go? It goes to government.
But he's talking about they're both talking about no tax on tips.
That's because you don't have to tip if people are getting paid a regular salary or a wage.
But they get taxed right now on their wages.
Yes, they do. They get taxed on their wages and their tips. And the way that it was explained to me, the tips can be pooled now by the company and distributed to other people.
Yeah, but everywhere you go, Brian, it's all 20% tip, and they just throw everything at you. When I go out to eat, half the time I'm picking up all the dishes and piling them up and cleaning. There's very few places that have good wait staffs now, I think.
Well, if that's the case, why would you tip them?
Well, you have to, because it says on the thing 20%, and then you feel like a fool if you don't.
So, to me, a tip is exactly that. It's a tip. You are tipping for the service, and that is the incentive for the wait staff and the bus people to do a good job so they get paid better than what 15 or 20% is supposed to be. But if they don't do a good job, then, they're not going to get paid. This way, they they don't have to do a good job. They're going to end up getting a regular salary.
Yeah, but don't you see that everywhere you go, when you go out, it's all says 20%. Some of them, they don't even want you to pay in cash anymore. They want you to,
but two different things. So I wanted to have the restaurant Scuttlebutt, which is in Paden, come on to the program during this particular hour, because they actually incorporate the tip in your check. So in other words, if you had a $5 bill, maybe you got a glorified cup of coffee, well, 18% or whatever has been tacked on to that. They may do it because their employees weren't getting enough money, and they had a revolving door of employees. The other side of the coin is, how much do you really want to pay for a cup of coffee? How much do you want to pay for a donut?
Where's Scuttlebutt?
Paden.
I know, but it doesn't ring a bell.
Yeah, ding, ding, ding. I did.
Where is it?
Elm and Bridge. Elm and Bridge Street.
Huh, because I never saw that one before.
I think it's relatively new, as in 2 or 3 years. And it may have changed names during that time.
They can coffee for $5. Okay. I'll go without. That's too much money for.
At $5, you're now paying $6. Yeah. And that is not including the tax.
Okay, one more thing before I hang up. Oh my God! This morning I got woken up. I wanted to choke this.
It wasn't me.
No, listen. It was an immigrant on the phone, could not speak English, and did it 5 times.
Did what 5 times?
Called my phone 5 times, and I can't speak their language. No word of English. And I'm like,
so how do you know it was an immigrant?
I know, because they couldn't speak no word of English. So
but that doesn't mean that they weren't calling from a foreign country.
Well, I had to say, no, it said New Jersey.
Okay, well, that's a good start, I guess.
I had to say Policia, finally, and I got to learn those words, what to do, and then block it.
Immigration. if you're that worried about it, quit sleeping all the time.
Help. I'm not sleeping all the time. I hardly ever sleep. I got insomnia to begin with, and then I have a dog to take care of. All right, Brian, have a good weekend. It's a holiday.
Don't forget.
What?
Just don't forget.
Well, I know I'm voting no for mushrooms.
You don't want what? You don't want any mushrooms?
No.
Oh, come on.
I tried that once.
And? Well, never mind. We see the results.
No, we don't want to see people on that walking around the streets, please.
So, there's a misconception. Thanks for your call. I'll explain. You can listen off air. But
okay.
All right. There's a misconception. Unlike marijuana, especially marijuana, now that it's for recreational use, you can smoke a bone, do gummy bears, whatever the case may be, and then, in theory, get behind the wheel and drive wherever you're going to go. But with the psychedelics, it is only for people that are prescribed by a doctor for this medication. The medication can only be taken in a certain place. Now, I don't know what the rules are going to be as far as when somebody can get behind the wheel. However, when you go to whatever, let's just say the boarding house for the sake of conversation, when you go over to the boarding house, you will be supervised by medical experts. You will do the mushrooms or whatever psychedelic that they're giving you, and you're going to be there until you mellow out, whatever the proper term would be. I've never done them, so I don't know. But you're going to be under supervision the whole time, and then you will leave. Now, when you leave, I'm not sure if they're going to allow you to drive at that particular time or not. But it's not like you can go do magic mushrooms and then go about your merry way, going to the supermarket, riding on the Serta bus or whatever the case may be. So there is a difference. All right, we're going to take one more before we go to the break. 508-996-0500. Hello. Yes.
Yes. So the reason why I'm calling originally was the tip and the whole thing with the restaurants. But getting on the mushrooms, why do people need to control what people do in their private lives?
Because they have nothing better to do.
If I want to do mushrooms under the prescription of a doctor at a facility that is protected, that doesn't allow me to drive, why do you care? It doesn't. You're not popping a bunch of mushrooms walking down, Brownell Ave. You're not doing that. Well, there are people who do it, but under this law, that's not what you're doing. You're literally going to a safe facility to do it. Why do you care? They're not harming you. Leave them alone. It's very simple. Mind your business.
I think there is a preconceived. I think there's a preconceived idea about what LSD was way back when, and people are going to have flashbacks, and they're going to be out of control. And you know what? The sad reality is there will be 1 or 2 or 10 that turn out to be like that, but the majority of people will not.
Into alcohol, we're all going to have to stop drinking beer on the weekends. This is the way it is. I always go back to alcohol. I always go back to prohibition because we have learned that doesn't work. It actually creates a bunch of criminals, to be honest with you. Back in the prohibition days, there were speakeasies and there was a lot of bad people made a lot of money trying to hide things. We need to stop trying to control. It's already illegal to operate under the influence of any drug or alcohol. That's it. If you are doing a drug like marijuana and you drive under the influence of marijuana and you get into an accident, you're going to go to jail. You're going to get citations. That's already illegal.
So, great point.
That's my point.
Great point. I'm not sure it's the same with psychedelics. Now, things may have changed, but I remember back when I was in San Diego, 40 years ago, that...
You're not that old.
No, believe me. There would be men from the military that would come to the beach and they would buy their acid. And they would buy a whole bunch of acid. How do I know? Because I watched this go on. And they would buy the acid and they would take it back to their ship or their submarine, whatever the case may be, because they were going out to sea and there were going to be times that they just wanted to be high. Why did they do the acid? That, I guess maybe that's what I really should get to. Because it did not come up in the piss test. And I'm not sure that it does today.
Right. So under this law, that wouldn't happen. Because you'd be in a controlled facility and you can't access it without a doctor's permission, without being prescribed.
Correct.
So this is safer than what happened 40 years ago and putting our national security technically at risk with our military going on submarines and ships and just driving around seeing pink elephants fly over the Pacific Ocean.
Oh, I did wonder. No, I did wonder. That's a possibility.
Imagine
there they
going
go.
down and you're in a submarine, and now you're seeing pink elephants. 700 feet deep below on top of the Marianas Trench. So here's the thing. So changes. Well, change the subject. I'm glad you're welcome, Brian. So. Jesus Christ.
I can't drive.
So on the tip thing.
Yes.
when you think about this, I have no problem with no tax on tips. And when I go to a restaurant, I'm going to tip regardless of what they get paid. And maybe that's because society has taught me that you tip on good service. Because you know what I've done? On an emergency in my house, I've had a water heater, crap the bed on me. And he came out on an emergency call. It cost me an arm and a leg, but I still tipped the guy, hey, here's an extra $20. Lunch is on me. Thank you for coming out. You want to know why? I know he's already getting paid like $45, $55 an hour as the worker. But I gave him an extra 20. Why? Because he came out in the middle of winter, probably on a holiday or a weekend, and did something for me. So when a server comes up to me and does an exceptional job, I don't care if they're getting paid $7 an hour or $37 an hour. I'm still going to give them a tip if they do a good job.
Well, there you go. And I think you hit the point. If they do a good job, you're willing to pay for it.
Right. So
but why do I want that tip automatically incorporated in somebody's pay?
So I don't, because then the government knows exactly how much you're making. But what I don't agree with in the law is it gets pooled. It gets pooled with other waiters and waitresses that don't do a good job, and in my opinion, don't deserve the tip, right? If you come over to me and you serve me a cup of coffee with your thumb on the inside of my cup, you're not getting a penny. If you go and test, test the coffee with your finger to see if it's still hot, you're not getting the tip. But now under the law, that can happen where they will get they'll get a percentage of my 20%. I mean,
and other people can also get a percent of that. Hey, thanks for the call. I agree with you, man. 508-996-0500 to get on to Brian's Beat. Pittman coming up after me. Rabbit. Yes, the rabbit is going to get killed, but that's all right because Mr. Pittman is here and he's going to carry you a live rabbit for the next 3 hours. Hey, it's been fun. We will do it again Monday after Bill O'Reilly. I'll be